Good, never enough light.
All right. So welcome back. We have a number of excused absences today. My apologies to hear that, but a lot of faces are nice to see back after the summer. First, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting? That would be the June minutes.
Yeah, we're looking, somebody swiped.
They swipe?
Did they swipe?
You know who you are. We should report them to the state. Mary, you know where the minutes were swiped. Has anybody else had an opportunity to review them? I certainly have. Dr. Broder, did you review them?
I think I took a look when Tim sent them out and they looked okay to me.
Excellent.
That's the right direction.
I agree.
I confirm.
Thank you to Howard for taking. I certainly appreciate that. Yes?
All in favor?
All in favor. Excellent. Yes? All in favor. Thank you very much. Brief review of our correspondence. We have some excused absences. First, Dr. Bosco and Dr. Ushkow.
Bosco, it's one guy.
What?
It's one guy. It's a big guy with a stiff neck.
Bosco, Dr. Ushkow.
Garbasco.
Garbasco? Why not? The great Garbasco. Okay. Both excused. Also, Brian Taft. What?
Dr. Vogel.
And Dr. Vogel.
Dr. DiMartino.
The list seems to be growing.
I don't think we have any guys.
We got a quorum?
And Funk. Okay. And Dr. Sakaris. Briefly excused. All right. We have other correspondence from Ballston Lake advising us they have a new ALS coordinator, and also just a letter telling us that Alec Davis, who's been a long-time member there, is stepping down briefly. But Brian Glick is going to be their new ALS coordinator. We'll be working closely, I'm sure, with Dean. And our Remac core sponsorship has been approved for another 2 years. Any other correspondence that has snuck in at the last minute? Along with all of those can't make it. We have one piece of correspondence from the Schenectady Fire Department that we'll mention under new business. Committee reports, academic committee. Dr. Doyle.
We talked a little bit about drug shortages, and there was a suggestion of buying medications from you guys have a list of the pharmacy, a compound pharmacy.
Yep.
But we don't know the costs.
Are we still seeing like large, widespread shortages?
Time of day is pretty tough to get these days.
Yeah, what we're seeing, Jonathan, is that it's kind of odd. It's almost a cyclical process with each one of the drugs.
One comes in, one goes out.
One comes in, one goes out, and then there's some times where there'll be one brief influx of drug, and the hospitals will get that supply, but the EMS agencies and the EMS agency suppliers that are getting it won't. So where we've seen some leveling off, partially because of discussions we've had with hospitals along the way, is with controlled substances, where the hospitals that do most of the controlled substance supplying have realized how little we really use. And because we use so little, they've said, okay, and are keeping more aside for us. So, just to make life easier.
So, and that's basically the story with the drug shortages. The Tom date's the big one. There was discussion on how many students in Hudson Valley and the Cobblestone program. Both of them are doing very well.
Excellent.
Discussion on the fact that EMTs are going to need some additional training. And at this point, I believe we now have 4 places that are willing to do that training. One was Remo, Brian was going to do it, Peter would talk about doing it as well. I can't remember who the 4th person was.
Remo, Albany County, Colony.
And there was someone else. I can't remember who else.
Anybody know who else?
Remember who it was? Or do you guys remember?
So there will be at least 3 locations.
Colony.
Remo, Albany County Sheriff, and there was one other.
Colony.
Yeah.
And Mohawk.
And Mohawk.
Okay, that was okay. So Mohawk.
I mean, the big thing, just for the docs that are not on board, New York State is going to the standardized curriculum for EMTs. basically what this training component is going to do is it's 14 hours of additional training for every EMT that currently has a card in order for these EMTs that are currently EMTs to continue being EMTs after June 30th, 2014.
Yes.
So basically, there's a group of providers who will have cards that will still be valid, but will not, or the card will be valid, but will not be able to practice as EMTs unless they've done this update. This is not something that's going to be able to cycle through over 3 years, starting with the folks that are going through classes now through 2014. All right, those brand new EMTs will all have this training, but anybody who will expire after that for the next 18 months will not. So we'll have to make sure that they all get this training.
What are the topics that are covered? Is it just a full of didactics or?
It's a smattering of almost everything.
Yeah, it's a smattering of little things throughout the curriculum, but it includes things like aspirin and albuterol. It also includes some more work on CPR, and then it's some physiology as well. So it's a fairly broad base. It's a fairly broad base. And it's going to mean that people that would normally have taken just a challenge refresher won't be able to just take a challenge refresher. They'll have to get this and then challenge out of the rest. There have been updated skill stations as well, and a significant amount of them.
And the thought with the 4 courses is they'll try to mirror each other, so if somebody can make a Saturday someplace, they can make a Sunday someplace at different time. Hopefully it'll be enough courses for everyone that wants to go to that. Other part, Remo award ceremony, St. Peter's, October 9th. Everybody wants to go. The food is going to be very good. It's the food that we never see at St. Peter's. Sorry, that's on tape, except when we end up having one of these little talks, or somehow the same kitchen that doesn't do a great job makes great food.
I just would like to actually put an additional plug in for the St. Peter's food, because the food at these things is spectacular.
That's amazing.
And the one thing that going to the Mercy Auditorium that will be missing, however, will be the Don and John show.
Oh,
One day it'll have to.
we'll have to redo it.
One day
We'll have to do it.
Drag it back up out of it.
We'll bring it back up.
Great, a little fatter, but.
Other than that, the October meeting is canceled. We'll see everybody academic in November.
Thank you. All right, so the meetings in October, as Dr. Doyna mentioned, will be canceled because the state meetings, both the CMAC and the SEMSCO, will be held that week. So it just doesn't make any sense to try to cram one extra meeting in there. And we've tried to reschedule these meetings in the past, and that's just a mess. So it didn't make any sense at all. Dr. Broder, I briefly addressed drug shortages as Dr. Doyna was giving his report. Do you have anything to add about the mess that is?
Other than the continued frustration that we all experience with it, no.
Okay.
Compounding pharmacies are helpful. We've seen some errors occur from compounding pharmacies already with agencies in the area. So be vigilant. It's a lot of legwork.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Alrighty. CMAC next meeting is going to be in October. SEMSCO, same. HOC, nothing. I think the only thing that's important is there's an airport drill coming up in October. At this point, at least, it is not going to involve hospitals. There is some conversation about whether or not the HOC itself will be fired up. We'll wait and see.
Anything that occur relative to the annual Camp Visco affair?
Actually went relatively well. We had one girl die. She sees from the scene and still sees when she got to the ICU. But we only had one non-scheduled call requiring mutual aid. The rest was taken care of by what we had on site. So that was, I think the total was 57 transports over about 4 days.
That's in addition to the one that found dead in the tent.
That's it, just, yeah, we had nothing to do with that.
Those 2 deaths, still one.
At least 2, yeah, we still had the full numbers on everybody.
Any tox report back from the status set? No.
I honestly don't know what details were sent. I don't think it's comprehensive.
Gotcha.
But a lot of bath salt, that sort of thing.
Interesting. Thanks for the follow-up. That's a good idea. One thing that we did do actually before Camp Visco is we enrolled Dwaynesburg Ambulance in the intranasal naloxone program. at the BLS level, which was really nice. Very welcoming agency. Went in. I went out with Chris, actually. We did the training. I think the training went really well. We came up with a process to restock them if there was going to be an issue with opioids out there. We didn't really expect that we'd see a lot of opioids out there because we never had in the past. And it seems as though the only person who was abusing opioids was the one who was dead before Camp Bisco even started, because that's the only conversation I've heard about opioids in Bisco.
Yeah, there wasn't much opioids.
Yeah. All the more synthetic, psychedelic, goofy stuff. What?
The
I
other,
don't like to see it.
College kids aren't.
And analog, yeah.
the other thing, Mohawk, I have to say, Jeff Williams put together a plan to increase their narcotics available to them if they needed it for the weekend.
Good idea.
So I work with them getting that pushed.
Thank you very much for working with them on that. It's important. Would have been the kind of thing where extra benzos would not be a bad idea at all.
And that's what we did. We
Yeah.
made a temporary plan.
Great idea. Great idea.
Pushing next year for a doc on site when this year's round of permits go
Hmm?
through. We're pushing for a doc on site with this year's round of permits go through.
You keep us posted on that. I'll look forward to hearing names.
Maybe do an extra one.
Some quick updates. I'm not going to read through the EPIs. Nice enough to know that there's some EPI plans out there. More agencies using albuterol and glucometry, and more agencies with BLS Narcan. No ALS upgrades and some BLS FR upgrades, which have now been put through correctly. Public access defibrillation, we have a significant number of folks going with PAD. It's only notification. We have a quick vote that we need to do. We have a guy named Rob McHugh, who's sitting right back there, who is interested in becoming the new medical director of Niskayuna Fire Department #1. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Silvernail has taken a job down south where it doesn't snow and has fled the scene to take his smoker down south. And we wish him well. I would like to make the motion to approve Rob as the new medical director for Niskayuna Fire Department #1. All in favor? Any opposed other than Rob? Okay, perfect. Congratulations. Old business. I think we've gotten a pretty good update on medication shortages. In a word, they're lousy. Enough said. And now, actually, I want to take a minute and let Chris give us a quick update on where we are with the BLS Narcan or naloxone program. Chris?
For just an overview and history of the program, I think Tim was supposed to do this, but I'll fire away. He's obviously a little busy. Direction by the New York State Department of Health AIDS Institute. The program was initially designed for friends and family of known opioid users. You'll see down below it says registered 63 opioid prevention programs, including 51 in New York City. I think we're one of the few programs that are EMS based, and we are controlling all of the EMS based programs throughout the state. As of, these are Tim's numbers, approximately 370 documented reversals statewide. We'll get to our local numbers shortly. The pilot program objectives, two of them, test the efficiency of a DVD-based training and as a rollout tool. There's additional hard copies of all the slides that are also presented to the students with a pre and post survey that's used to test the efficiency of that DVD. Basically, you want to make sure they get a good understanding of the program, what they're trying to do, how to use the tools that they have in front of them. And the other big piece of this is to evaluate any hazards that may arise as documented by providers. The surveys that go out with each naloxone package has 2 or 3 questions. Were there any hazards? What were they? Any harm to the providers? That's the big thing that they're looking for. I believe Boston's program had maybe 1 or 2 over probably 500 uses that, if I remember correctly from the DVD, 1 or 2 incidents where there was harm to an EMT of some sort. That's the big thing that they're looking for with this program. Remo's participation, we are kind of the hub for a lot of the materials and make sure everything comes back through us and to the state. As of today, right now there's the current, on the Remo region, Remo, Arams, Mountain Lakes, Suffolk County, Monroe, Livingston, and Nassau. Nassau is going to be the newest one that pops up in here. Their training takes place this week for Train the Trainers. Agencies within Remo, Steventown Fire Department, Town of Hoosick Rescue Squad, Castleton, Rensselaer County Sheriffs, they were actually the first to have it, and the Duanesburg Volunteer Ambulance, as we've just talked about. Adams, Mountain Lake, and Nassau have not put their programs in place. Suffolk County is using their PD and some of their EMS agencies, and Monroe, Livingston is the City of Rochester Fire Department. Remo qualifiers, what we're using is the rural areas with limited access to ALS care, Rensselaer County. Yep. No Remo uses as of yet. Suffolk County, since the start of this program, 18 reported reversals, and most of them were documented by the Suffolk County PD. Monroe, Livingston, 4 reversals. Any other usages, Tim, in the last couple?
No, haven't got anything in the last few days. Those Monroe Livingston ones just came in. They went live, give or take, a few weeks ago, and right off the bat they had to work.
It's interesting. Of those, as the sheets have been coming through, I've been seeing the ones that have been coming through through here for the most part. The only one that was a protocol violation was one where the drug was given at the request of a paramedic who was on the scene. There's been no BLS protocol violation, which is nice to see.
And that is your BLS Narcan update. Questions?
Excellent presentation.
Nicely done. Thank you.
That was supposed
So-
to be Tim. But.
Neat program. It seems to be working really well statewide. It's affecting a lot more people on the island than it is up here. But hey, we'll see what we learn, and we'll watch all of these cases and bring the information back to the Department of Health and see where it goes from here. So, any questions? Thanks for your support as we got it off the ground. The partnership with the AIDS Institute has been interesting because this is actually a slightly different program than the Friends and Family program the Department of Health's AIDS Institute is normally doing. If you think about it, the idea of prescribing a medication for use on somebody else is a very unusual idea in the first place. And it specifically excludes using public safety or EMS providers as part of that program. So this is just bringing something new on board. It's working out really well. Working out really well. Anybody have anything else to add from the floor?
Whatever
Here.
happened with Deb Funk's program, thinking of other trial projects, the flu shots?
I don't have an answer for where that one is right now.
Because it went through the CMAC and we thought it got killed by the health department. I don't know if you had heard any more.
Other than percolating along with blood and anything else that Deb seems to bring up, sadly enough, she seems to just get shot down out there somewhere. I don't know. She's got a bruise in the middle of her forehead that's as big as mine, I think. I don't know. Just don't mention blood to her. No, I hope that's actually coming along, because it makes sense. There are a couple of other programs out there with the potential to make sense. We just have to wait and see whether or not they can actually fly. One other program that we've talked about, and I'll bring it up here briefly because it's got the potential to run with, is, as you know, every ambulance in New York State is required to have an EpiPen on board, or the ability to give epinephrine to a patient with anaphylaxis. The cost of this is between $600 and $1,000 per ambulance per year because of expiring EpiPens. The number of EpiPens that are used, and used correctly, is minuscule at best. One possibility that we are investigating is the idea of supplying well-trained, well-supervised, full-time EMTs. You'll notice all of those stipulations in place, right, with injectable epinephrine that they would draw up and then inject, using 0.5 ml syringes so they can't draw up too much, with attached needles so they can't lose the needle. Doing everything as safely as we can to save a significant amount of money on something that almost never gets used. And I'll keep you posted if we end up getting any closer on something like that. All right.
That's probably safer than the EpiPen.
It may very well be safer. There are a lot of people that get hurt with EpiPens. And that was something we actually did a bunch of research through the Sparks database to try to see how many people got stuck with EpiPens, and you actually can't find that information out of Sparks. There are a bunch of different modifiers within the coding that you'd think would have gotten us close. We couldn't actually track that down. The last utilization of an EpiPen in this area was one in the last year that we've seen. Most times EpiPens are used and they pop up in the charting software. It's because somebody selected the wrong epinephrine when they were doing a cardiac arrest, and they just happened to click on the wrong box. There's one in Dwaynesburg in July? Okay, we haven't gotten that paperwork, have we? Okay. But we had one in another agency relatively recently where it was used out of protocol, it was used badly, and the care around the use was terrible. But it was good because it gave us a chance to go in and actually find a significant quality issue that Dean's following up on. So for all the wrong reasons, we found something that's going to end up working out well. So nobody got hurt though, which is good. So somebody's fingers made it through intact.
The newer generation has a lot of safety features in it. It's automatically, so it's sharps. It's got a big blaze arch tip on it, so it's a little bit better than the older version.
There's a huge problem with that orange tip on it though, because if you happen to be one of these people that uses a insulin pen, the insulin pen looks exactly like the blaze orange ended EpiPen, except the other end is the business end. What can you do? Standardization? Closer. You still have to teach it. Don't put your thumb on either end and hold it like this. That's the best way to do it, right?
And don't drop it. We had our one injury was they dropped it, they went to grab it, and
Yeah,
they
don't
grabbed
grab
it. And it was right in
If
their
it's sharp and
finger.
it falls, let it drop.
Well, it hadn't ejected yet until they grabbed it.
Until they grabbed it.
Right into their
That's right.
finger.
Exactly. So, if anybody needs to practice with EpiPens, there are lots of expired EpiPens around to practice with. I've got about 30 in my office to practice with if you'd like to, and I'm sure Mohawk Ambulance has piles of them if you need them. Anything else? Actually, just a quick question. Does everybody think that's a good idea for me to pursue, by the way?
Sticking yourself in the hand with that.
Or doing,
Doing the pilot.
That'll be your
doing what?
Doing that little pilot I was talking about.
With the syringe.
With the syringe.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Save
Great
a ton
idea.
of money.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good, good, good. All right. Is that a motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor? Thank you.
The only thing I would add is if it's a BLS only squad, they're gonna
Yes.
need a sharps container, or they'll have to take it to the hospital.
Actually, Sharps, they already have to have a Sharps container on board the ambulance.
Even
so-
for BLS? only?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other new business, Tim? You got anything?
I have a question for Don for St. Peter's Hospital.
Yep,
The storage of EMS equipment outside there.
I have no